Hi there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Bird, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, it's finally happened. I feel like we've done podcasts for an entire year, not knowing for sure what the NCAA and ultimately what the roster size and scholarship size for men's and women's golf ultimately will be. And uh, as often with the NCAA, it kind of came out of nowhere, but um, for the good or the bad of it, we at least have an answer. And now ultimately is up to the schools to decide whether they opt in uh, to the profit sharing and whatnot, or you're certainly hearing the Ivy schools will not be opting in, and in those cases, everything will stay pretty much exactly the way it is, the way I understand it. So, uh, before we welcome in Coach Pezzino from UConn, he's been a great guest over the years. Just curious, I'm sure for you, for some degree, you're glad that we have an answer and a resolution, and that's big for junior golfers and college golfers moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been looming now for it seems like forever, right? And having been in the college space and now in the junior golf space, coaching the junior golfers and dealing with that all the time with parents and that question, well, what's going to happen? It's been crazy trying to skirt around that and going, we don't know. We have to wait and see. We have to, we can't tell you what a college coach is going to say about it because they don't know either. So it's been that mystery. It's solved now. For some, I think it's going to be very interesting now that the coaches are going to be put in the spot. So I'm very interested to hear how Coach Pezzino is viewing this. But so many coaches have told us they're just on hold. They're waiting to see. They're going to do the best of their ability to recruit the best players they possibly can. But it's going to change, right? There's undoubtedly it's going to change the marketplace for junior golfers and collegiate golfers the same, because of NIL monies and who opts in, and it's going to change the lives of some of those former players who were
Yeah.
there, who's going to benefit from some of this these changes as well. So
So
interesting here.
if I mean, let's just be honest, and that's what we are as the flagship podcast for junior golf. This is going to have the largest effect on junior golf in the history of junior golf. It's unfortunate in some degrees. Maybe we'll look back at this and see that it was the best thing for junior golfers. But it is going to have a massive impact. With that, we welcome in our old friend of the program, Coach Pezzino from University of Connecticut. Coach, I'm guessing for you to get a final resolution from the NCAA to know the cards that you're at least to be able to go to the poker game with, uh, some respect, you've got to be glad that you at least know what it's going to look like in the future.
Yeah, I think to have the ability to forecast out for the last couple months that we haven't been able to do has been very challenging. Not knowing what we're going to do with current guys on the roster that we care about, that we've been entrusted to, help mold as young men has been a tremendous challenge, and it's been a huge strain on my heart and our assistant Ferdy's heart. Like, we've wanted to make sure that we took care of these guys, and if they wanted to go into the portal, we wanted to help them, but they didn't want to go. They wanted to stay. And the ability to finally have an idea that, okay, we can grandfather one athlete in and the other athlete just stays on the roster as we're at 10 currently, um, is a huge benefit. Now we can start managing what it's going to look like in the future. And I can tell you, if somebody's going to come on this podcast and tell you that they had an idea what it's going to look like, they're not. They're fibbing to you, because I think it's going to constantly change. I think there's one thing my high school golf coach Odell Nasser once told me: don't talk about other people's money, who they marry, or religion, and you'll be okay in life. And I think what we're doing now is the money part is very challenging. A lot of programs have to fundraise in the golf space a lot. And some of us have to raise a lot, and it's kind of normal for college golf. We just do it. If we need stuff for the team van, or you need something for a membership, you just go out and you bang on doors and you call people that care about your program, and they help you. But now it's tough because you don't know how much money you're going to need, right?
Right.
You don't know what it's going to look like. And, my biggest fear is with the amount of money that's going around and where it needs to go. I don't think any college golfer is really concerned about getting paid to play. I think, I'm sure there's a group of them that are in that space, but we're currently not recruiting that guy. And thankfully so, because those 5 letters behind me and that beautiful dog have meant a lot to some score sheets that are up here in my office of guys that started at UConn that were non-scholarship. And we had 4 guys playing the U.S. Opens from 2019 to 22, and 50% of them started at UConn when we didn't have a scholarship.
Wow.
So it's a shame that it's turned down instead of going to the right institutional fit to, all right, who's got the most money? And we pride ourselves at UConn on a demanding schedule, and we play a very hard schedule for that specific reason. But some of the kids aren't appreciating what the schedule looks like, right? And if we're going to Hawaii, we're playing against 5 teams from Japan at the Bridgestone Cup in Napa, California. We're playing at Florida State's event coming up. Those things should matter in player development, and they matter in this office, and they matter on this campus. But the whole revenue thing, to me, I don't know where we're going to be, Roger and Ryan. I just don't. I can't tell you how stressful the last, since September has been, because we've been actively recruiting the 25 class for 2 years now. And we had commitments in the summer before this whole thing really popped. And when it first popped on the recruiting trail, a whole bunch of us kept saying there has to be a grandfathering in. I mean, for the last 2 years, we had COVID kids and we had kids with extra years of eligibility. I mean, heck, Division II got 2 COVID years, or Division III got 2 COVID years.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful that everybody did the right thing. We're not, UConn's not losing 2 awesome young men because of it. And, I think a lot of programs are going to realize it's part of our responsibility to the athlete to see this thing through, even if a student athlete isn't first team all conference.
Roger, let's just real quick, let's get out some of the math for our audience that are trying to figure this all out on the fly. So this current year, Coach, you had 10 players on your roster. Is that accurate?
We had 11.
You had 11 this year. Under the new rule, when that takes place, do you know when you have to be under the new rule?
Well, by July 1, we have to designate student athletes as grandfathered or a DSA, depending on, whether they've transferred or whatever it might be. And I actually have my meeting later today at 2:00 with our administration. So it's a good question. But for our upcoming year, 25-26, we're going to be at 10.
Okay.
So thankfully, we could just take our guys back.
So when the grandfather is over, though, what will you're moving forward, seemingly if things stay the same, understanding they may change again?
9.
You'll be at 9. And you can offer those kids as much as you want from a scholarship standpoint.
Across the board, yes. Obviously, we have different rules for every institution. But as far as I'm aware, everybody but the SEC is at 9. That's going to opt in. And that's the number. Some programs have been told, we're going to go to 9 with you in the mid-major level, and that's great. But some programs aren't going to that. They might bump 1 or bump 2 scholarships, whatever it may be. But some are staying the same with what they were before that, because there's Title IX implications too that I think people are forgetting about.
The biggest, obviously, drop at the top, Roger, is the SEC, which, for all intents and purposes, it is the best conference in America for men's golf. I think we can certainly that and the ACC are close, the Big Ten, but I think the SEC, when you look at the recent national champions and whatnot, we'll say. So the big move there is most of those schools, when I looked at it, are between 12 and 11. They are going to 8. And you're now talking about schools that are recruiting top 100 players in America, almost exclusively, that are going to be dropping 4 players from their roster as they get into that 8 spot. I That's a pretty massive trickle down that the entire Division 1, 2, and 3 will feel just from them going to 8.
Of course it is. And, think about, maybe programs like a UConn or other programs that are out there that are, want to continue to build. I mean, listen, Coach Pezzino, UConn, you guys have done an amazing job. You've built an amazing program there. Like you said, with going and doing, van washes and car washes, raising money. And now getting, your program into the prominence of the national tournament and doing well at regionals. I mean, it's going to be significant to get players that are going to be cut from these other rosters or not be recruited now going to these other big rosters. It's going to spread the wealth around. I assume schools like yours, you at UConn, would benefit from that, right? Greatly, to have that opportunity now to get players that you really, to your point, not on your radar necessarily, but could now be on your radar, going forward after the effects of the grandfathering, if you will.
Yeah, I think once the grandfathering actually kicks in, I'm not sure what the SEC is going to do if they're going to go to 8 right away. I mean, that was what I was hearing, but I'm not a compliance
That's what I'm
person.
hearing as well, Coach.
Yeah,
Same.
So if they go directly to that, yes. And you were mentioning, Ryan, that some of the programs had 10 or 12 or 11 or 12. There's a couple that had 15.
Yes.
And those are really difficult conversations to have. Wow. They're absolutely awful. And, when you have to tell somebody that you care about that is doing what you're asking them to do and their golf just isn't there, that's partially our fault. Obviously some of it goes to the athlete, but as a 53-year-old dad, I laid awake at night thinking about those conversations about 2 young men I really care about. And gratefully we're not down that road. But when it comes to the grandfathering part, some kids went into the portal and they put do not contact real quick. They go in the portal, do not contact, and they're out quickly. International team coaches, friends. It's not the coaches, in our sport so much tampering. It's the student athletes helping each other. Like, hey, my buddy's at this school, my buddy's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's tampering. I think it's just buddies being buddies, and they're just not aware of the rule and the culture of college athletics. But, with the freedom to move about, I think that you're going to see a lot of that the next couple of years, unfortunately, with kids changing schools quickly. But, I think a lot of those athletes have already found homes. If you're in the portal and you're following kids, I get pinged all day with the kids that we've been tracking, and thankfully they found some homes. And the good thing is they found some homes at some really good non-Power 4 schools. So that's really good.
Right. So what do you think now? I mean, okay, the rules in effect, we've got a year or so, give or take, with grandfathering, maneuvering, shifting of, let's call it resources. And I hate to use that word, but it is what it is for a coach. Mm-hmm. Players are resources to go compete. But what happens to the junior golfer? I mean, we're still, no matter what, we're still in that limbo effect of what's going to happen to the recruitables, if you will. Is this going to be a big shift or major shift to parents thinking, Division 2, Division 3? I mean, I know I'm getting calls all the time right now going, I don't even want to think about Division 1 school because of the uncertainty. I'll go to a great liberal arts school, D3 school, somewhere that my kid can compete and do well. And you know what? He's good enough or she's good enough to get some kind of NIL money on the side or some type of deal. What's it matter to them anymore? How is it going to really affect that parent or that kid? Actually, the kid, because it's not the parent, really.
Well, a kid coming from Division 3, who's doing well, they would have to be doing extremely well at their national championship, and have most of the time. Division 2 doesn't play 54-hole events. They play a lot of 2-round events. But there's some really great players. I tell this, Roger, I've said this in your building a lot.
Yeah.
Good golf doesn't know division.
Yeah.
And hopefully that continues, because I think what's going to happen is, and Roger, you've had a bunch of kids at your place go D2, D3 that have been absolute great sticks, and they've and they've stuck there, and it's been great fits. That should be the most important key. And I know I'm talking to a wall when I say that to parents, but you're not going to be successful if you go to a place because they gave you a Nike gig and you get free equipment. It just it's so empty. If you go there because you really like the guys on the team, the academic advisor is fantastic. You get 2 weeks priority registration on your academics. I mean, those things got to matter. And you know, it's tough because the junior golfer has worked all the way up till today, and they've started their summer schedule now, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to be in 26 and 27. And I've heard this a lot, like, well, I'm just going to go to a small school and I'm going to transfer.
Yeah.
Well, okay, all right. Well, what if you go there and you don't play well? Then what are you going to do? Can the coach cut you then? Is that cool? Does that work? Because it should be a two-way street. And I think the interesting point of it is, if you go someplace, I wish I could bring up some names, but we're not allowed, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
There's just one interesting kid that went to a D3 school, and I personally think the young man's a stud, and he's thriving there, and I'm so excited. I think it's the coolest thing, and I'm rooting for him and his program all the time. I think it's really good. I think he's about to graduate, so that's really awesome. The thing that kills me is, a lot of kids will look at that and be like, oh, that's the stepping stone. That's the stepping stone. It's not, though, right? Like, if you get great academics, what's the official number, Roger, of guys that go on to play on the PGA Tour? It's like
a very
1% of whatever, but not everybody's Michael Lasasso, right? Winning the national championship and hitting 400-yard drives. So I think what kids fail to understand is when you transfer a lot, you lose credit hours too. And and then you got to start all over, right? Like, you go from a team culture that you like, people that you like. It's a group of folks that are fighting to become better. And then you transfer somewhere else, maybe to a different region. Maybe, you go to out west and it's completely different, and because they had, I don't know, some kind of crazy NIL deal for you. All that's pretty fleeting.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you're Paige Beckers at our place and you do magical things with your NIL, like she purchased breakfast and lunch for her high school and her middle school kids back in her hometown. That's monopoly money. She's an amazing young lady. But the thing for me is, all right, so let's say you go someplace because they gave you 10 grand. I could tell you how quick a college kid can go through 10 grand. Right? But it has to be the right institutional fit, right? Like, if you don't like the guys you're playing with or the gals that are on the team, man, you're out of there so quick. And maybe not out of there physically, but most certainly mentally. And that's when you start getting at the bottom end of the lineup. So I think it's important that the junior golfer goes out and just golfs their ball, does their visits, has honest conversations with their coaching staffs they sit down and meet with. And right now is the time when they're, junior to senior year, get those unofficial visits in. When you're traveling to play in tournaments, just go and do the tour without the coaching staff. And then, make sure you fill out those questionnaires, do follow the programs online and Instagram and stuff like that. And I would hate to see a kid say, oh, I'm just going to take a gap year. I'm going to go to a private school and step away. I don't know. You might fall in love with that D2 school and you might play well there. Because, listen, even when I was that age, I wanted to play at Florida and Florida State. I thought I was that good. I was not. But I think the most important thing is the families have to understand, and this is going to be hard to hear, is that you have to go at this at a marathon pace, but looking at things that are coming at you very quickly, that it's going to take some time to find the right institutional fit. But once the student athlete knows it, they'll know. And that's tough to stomach right now with everything that's going on with the roster limitations and the grandfathering in, and what's the 26 class going to look like, where the 25 is going to end up. 25 are fine. They're already set. But what's 26 going to look like, right? What's 27 going to look like? But I think that they should still do their visits, still have those unofficial visits that they can go on, or the official visits when time permits. But have those honest conversations with coaches. It's important to do that.
Coach, the next step of this arms race, if you will, and this is probably where each school will have the own individual decision. So again, let's go back to I'm asking, every men's Division I program has 4.5 scholarships this year. Is that what you had?
Yep.
Okay. That includes SEC, that includes everybody, 4.5 scholarships.
Till today.
So what that means is if you take the national champs from Oklahoma State, they have, say, 10 players on the team. Those 10 players were splitting 4.5 scholarships.
Well, yes, and then there's other ways to do it too. There's academic aid, there's merit, there's junior golf foundations have a lot of scholarships. So there's other ways to fund it, but it is what it is.
Is what it is. Okay. The new rule as of now is that if you opt in, and we've heard this on the podcast on SEC, those 8 scholarships will all be full. That's why they won't.
I don't know if I heard that exactly. So okay. That there's 8 spots.
8 spots. SMU was just on the podcast a month ago, and he said all 9 of their scholarships will be full. Now, obviously, SMU is a different deal with the amount of.
Well, they're not an SEC school.
ACC, yeah.
Yeah, ACC.
But they're not an SEC school.
No, I was jumping to SMU that he was on the podcast and says all 9 of their scholarships will be full.
Right, because I think the SEC is going to cap at 8, and then they might limit less. I'm not quite sure. You'd want to grab one of them.
Those conference rules, obviously, SMU is under the understanding that they can do whatever they want with those. Sure. Okay. How big of a deal now if every school or conferences, and let's just take the SEC out of it, and let's go on from there. You're in the Big East, other conferences like that. They could all stay at 4.5, and things would be pretty normal once we get past the grandfathering in. You may have had 10 or 11 before. You'll eventually settle in at 9, and it will be 4.5. And life will probably resume at UConn pretty close to where it was before this new rule. If there are these wild cards out there that can offer more than 25 or 30%, how much do you think that will impact the recruiting game?
I think it'll be massive for sure. If you look at it, if you look at, I don't want to call any school. Let's call State U down there, and they've got 9 fulls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, last I checked, we can only play with 5. Right? And
yes, sir.
The playing time is the biggest thing for us, and we bring a lot of indies on the road. And I think that, that's going to be a big deal. I mean, I think it might take a year or two to understand, like, well, geez, I'm 8th on the roster. I'm not playing, right? But I got a full ride. I mean, some of that stuff has got to kick in. If you have any kind of soul, like if golf really matters to you, I would think and I would hope that they would want to go to the coach. And I mean, it's a 2-way street too, right? You're helping the coach out. You're going to some place, like you're at a Power 4 and you're not playing, but then you have an opportunity to, you know what? I outkicked my coverage here. I can't really play. Ryan's been kicking my ass for 2 months now. I can't even make it in the lineup. Mm-hmm. All right, well, maybe I'm just going to have to go find a place where I can play. I'd be interested to see what kind of report it was in the game of golf where the kids that are in the transfer portal transferred up, equal, or down.
Down, yeah.
I'd be interested to see what that looks like. Because, I saw a couple kids go up, but they also were top 75 in the country on Clipped.
Right.
So, that stuff matters. If you go and golf your ball, that stuff all takes care of itself. The challenging component you're going to have is if a kid goes in and does well, plays well, does well in the postseason, there's nothing some of these lower level schools can do to keep a kid from transferring. You could play a good schedule. That may not always matter. There might be a weather component. It could be like, hey, like this school's sponsored by Ping or Titleist, and I want to go there. Okay, well, knock yourself out. It's kind of like who we are and who college golf is turning into. I think every sport's getting this. Like, I bet the baseball portal and the softball portal are out of control. Like
Yeah.
looking at how much on TV that stuff is now, and that's got to matter to young athletes. I
Yeah.
think there's a softball pitcher. She's making over $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Well,
done.
she's,
Pretty good.
yeah, she is. Yeah. I'd like to face that fastball.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, the ball
Coach, I
rises,
think that
Roger.
is,
It doesn't come down; it goes up.
yeah. I mean, one of the things too is like, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, you just got to go golf your golf ball. And I think parents are playing too much of this game of, you know, I've got to learn all about this. Go golf your golf ball, get the best academic fit you can that you can get, right? I mean, that's the number one rule. I mean, I sit down with hundreds of kids, and the first thing I tell them is like, golf is not going to get you the scholarship you think it will. It may help put you in a different pile in the resume application process, if you will, but it's not going to get you do well in academics, and that coach is going to even like you more because he doesn't have to worry about you. She doesn't have to worry about you. You can go get scholarship in academics. It's more available there than it is in sport. It's shown all over the place. It doesn't have to be that. But I think if kids go golf their golf ball, I've had a lot of experiences where kids go to a school that they can't compete and fall back, right? And quite frankly, they were so much happier doing that. They were struggling to get to this big, goal of playing top D1 golf, get there and realize I'm not playing. They're on the team. Listen, they got the bag, they got the scholarship or got at least partial scholarship, but they weren't happy. And even though they're happy academically, they weren't happy overall in their lives because the balance of golf and academics wasn't there for them. And I think that's really important, that these kids understand that there's a lot of opportunity out there if you look outside of the normal name on the box, if you will, right?
Oh yeah, it's so true. I think the biggest red flag for me is when I sit down and I talk to parents and athletes, and the young man's really fired up about the school, and he likes our facility. It's in Gamble, right upstairs, and we play a great rotation of golf courses. And then if the mom or dad starts in on ranking, strength of schedule, who do we play, who am I recruiting, how much scholarship money I have left, where's it all going, that's just a big old red flag. Because everything is so readily available nowadays. But I couldn't tell you exactly how much scholarship every kid that ever played here is on, because I try to match the fit with the kid and all that stuff. But the most important thing is the ability to go play. If you never get a chance to see the inside of the team van other than to clean it, then that's the wrong place for you. And the kids know, right? They just know. And now with this limited roster number, you're going to see kids going to places where they can play, where they can go to D2 State U, where that's a great thing, man. I'm telling you. It kills me when I see all these kids posting day in the life of a D1 golfer. Yeah, you stink. You have time to create and do content because you're not traveling.
Yeah.
And, I had a conversation with a young lady who's a social media person at the PGA show, and I said, how's recruiting going? And, she was like, oh, well, I'm this grade in school and this is when it happens. I'm like, I know, but like, you're playing golf at a high level. I've seen your scores. Like, schools are watching. She's like, oh, no, not yet. I'm like, oh, yes, they are. Because women's golf is not 1977 women's golf.
Yeah.
Our women's coaches are great, and they recruit the hell out of kids, and they follow everybody. And the dad leans in with the camera, and he's like, hey, I think we're going to find her a spot that has a respect for where she falls in the golf social media landscape. And I said, well, that's great. Good luck. And I turned and looked at her. I'm like, really, good luck. And I walked on. It's not the coaches. The coaches will most certainly talk to her about it, but it's the other kids. They're not going to, if you're playing in a qualifier, you don't want to have the kid have a camera in their bag and put it up on the tee on 18 when they're tied for the lead and, trying to get in the bus to go to Hawaii. Tell me how that's going to go in a team meeting.
Yeah.
And I think we, as coaches and adults, we got to start bringing some of that stuff back. But the whole thing with the roster spots and I say all these crazy things to say, like, it has to be about the student athlete and their fit. And it has to be about if they take golf away, because most of the time, even in Florida, you don't play golf in the month of January in a tournament. So you're on campus for a couple weeks. What are you going to do? Like, are you going to be involved in, like going to a basketball game or, watching your friends, play rec sports, or you're going to be, what are you going to do? And do you love the school? And that's the most important thing. And gratefully, I've worked at some places where they really love the school and the student athletes. I've got some pretty cool pictures of here in my office where guys went to Madison Square Garden together as a team to watch our boys play down at Madison Square Garden, and the Big East tournament on the other wall. And it's 4 years, and you can't make a lifetime of living out of 4 years. You got to prepare yourself and give yourself a good foundation. And, bag chasing, and I don't mean golf bag chasing in the golf space. You're not Paige Beckers. You ain't that gal. And it's the truth. I mean, not everybody's Blade Brown who opted to go to the PGA Tour or Korn Ferry route. Those guys aren't golfing their ball like him. And I can tell you right now, he had a lot of suitors, and a lot of my friends are great coaches, and they were great places. But if you're a high school golfer and your name's not on the front page, junior golf scoreboard and the hub and all that stuff, then you may want to look for the right institutional fit before trying to buy your mom and dad a house with your first name, image, and likeness paycheck.
All right, Coach.
Sorry to talk your ear off.
No, we love having you. It's a wonderful perspective, and really offered a massive service today. So enjoy the summer a little bit for sure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet, guys. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
See you guys.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
As expected, Roger, a wonderful perspective on how this is going to impact. Listen, it's going to impact junior golf like never before. That's going to be reality. It's going to take the 26s are really, really going to feel it, because there's going to be all that leftover talent that is shopping for a place to play. No fault of their own. They're basically being told that they have to leave.
Yeah.
And that's like there's hundreds of D1 Power 4 players that are going to be asked to leave.
Yeah.
So assuming they have something to offer, they're going to chew up a lot of that initial spots in the junior golf landscape. And listen, we'll be here for it. Certainly, we know there's going to be a million questions. This is a great time to sign up for the Junior Golf Hub. This is a great time to ask Roger and myself questions on the podcast. We understand there's so much uncertainty in the junior game more than ever before. And now's when you really need to rely on the Junior Golf Hub to be able to give you real, truthful answers and be able to, instead of being scared, being informed as you move forward.
Absolutely. I think that is the toughest thing, Ryan, is when you're not informed, you start creating these opinions or these thoughts that just maybe not aligning with what's really the reality of what's out there, right? I mean, yes, there's going to be some changes. Yes, there's disruption. Yes, it's going to be some uncertainty in the recruiting process for some of these top junior golfers in the next, call it 18 months. But there are still plenty of opportunities if you golf your golf ball and you do the right things, you get your academics done, and make relationships or form relationships out there with coaches first and foremost, right? Reach out to those coaches and say, hey, I really want to be there and play. So I think that's important for our audience to hear that. So
for sure.
And coaches want to hear that. I mean,
yeah.
Pezzino says it, over and over and over. It's like those relationships matter to him. And it matters to their players that their coach is really approachable. It's not just a business transaction, where it is going to be much more that way with some of these bigger schools and these schools that are opting in. It's a business transaction. Let's not forget that first and foremost. With this money that's being put into this, it's now a business transaction. College is a business. Yep. We know that. We're not going to hide that. But find the right fit for you out there. So
awesome. So again, juniorgolfhub.com. This is going to be your best spot to ultimately receive the information as it comes and how it impacts you. Feel free to respond here on the podcast and ask questions to Roger and myself. And for a lot of kids, because there's going to be more scholarship available at different levels, from a personal, family, financial situation, this could be a bigger, your child could be receiving a bigger scholarship because of this latest rule. So
Yes.
a lot still to be decided. We will keep you informed as always right here. So for Roger, Nick, our producer, director, Michael, Nick, I'm Brian Burr saying we'll see you back here real soon on the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast.